Today we're going to cover 3 lesser-known missing 411 cases. I'm Aiden Mattis, and welcome back to the Lore Lodge. In 2010, 2-year-old Rowen Grifton went missing at a family home in Richmond, New Hampshire. Rowen and his family were visiting his grandmother, who lived on a large piece of property in the rural town and the rural community of Richmond. Now, this is quite nearby because Vermont and New Hampshire are so close to one another. It is very nearby the Bennington Triangle, an area where many people are reported to go missing under odd circumstances every year. Now, the area is home to a rather large bear population, so it's not entirely impossible that this is just hikers getting eaten by bears, but at the same time, it's still weird. Point here is that Rowen, who was, again, a toddler, not even capable of going off on his own, was just playing in the backyard, and this was a property where you had to go pretty far off the main road to get where they were hanging out. It was in the woods, and it's across the street from a wildlife management area. Specifically, it is New Hampshire's Barden State Wildlife Management Area. So, while it's not a national park, it is a state-run wildlife reserve. We'll put it that way. According to Rowen's father, he was playing with the family cat and chased it off into the woods, and this wasn't a big deal because, it wasn't like he was gone that far. But after some time had passed, Mr. Grifton began to feel a little bit anxious about the situation. So he asked everybody to stop talking, and they launched a search for 2-year-old Rowen. Everyone in the family took part in the initial search, and when nothing came up after just a couple of hours, they asked for authorities to get involved. A larger search was launched, including much of the local community, and they spent the rest of the afternoon into the evening looking for Rowen. Unfortunately, they were not able to find him that day, and so they had to wait overnight. The next morning, they went out looking again, and they actually did find him fairly quickly. Rowen was clinging to a tree in the middle of a pond, in the middle of a swamp, in water that would have been too deep for him to walk through, which means that he would have had to swim to get to this point. Now, initially, everyone was just happy they had found Rowen, but when they finally did ask, hey, what happened? Rowen's answer didn't really line up. You see, Rowen had run into the forest because he was chasing a cat, but Rowen was not found in the immediate vicinity of where he went missing. No, Rowen was found 3 miles away by a splinter search group that wasn't even part of the main search, and his reasoning for why he put himself in the position he was in is that he was scared of the cows. The problem here is that there weren't any cows anywhere in the area at all, especially not in the swamp. So, what did Rowen see that he thought were cows is the immediate question. Then there's also the question of how did he get 3 miles away in just 12 hours? And on top of that, how did he get out there when he was 2 years old, unable to swim, and dry when they found him? Now, yes, he was out there for 11 to 12 hours, but that's not enough time for somebody's clothes to dry completely, especially not overnight. It just doesn't track. All in all, Rowen was found alive. He was not scarred by the incident, so it's not a huge deal, but it's still a case that has not been solved as to how he got there. Another case involving a child who went missing and was found too far away to have reasonably gotten there is the case of Keith Parkins. Now, Keith went missing, I believe, in 1952. This is important because you've got to remember the technology of the time and, just keep that in mind how long ago this was and why it took them so long to find him. But he was playing with his brothers, and this was in Ritter, Oregon, just outside of Umatilla National Forest. So not in a national forest, but very close to one. He was hanging out on his family's cattle ranch, just playing around, and when everybody got called in to go in for lunch, he didn't come with them. So, of course, they immediately start looking for him because this is a 4-year-old who's just missing out and about. They don't know what happened. And they could not find him anywhere near the ranch. Eventually, several hours later and 4 miles away, they did find footprints. They appeared to be his, and they followed that trail of footprints for a long while until eventually they just stopped. Now, the next day, they were able to find Keith. He was face down, 12 miles from where he went missing, with scratches all over his body. He was alive. Keith could not explain what happened. All he knew was, I disappeared, and now I'm here. Years later, they interviewed him about it. He didn't remember anything. But what sticks out about the whole thing is that all he had sustained were some scratches in this 12-mile, what you would presume the only reason a kid would wander 12 miles out of their way is if they were running from something. He said that he was scratched by a cat, and that was it. Now, did he mean a house cat? Did he mean a big cat? If it was a big cat, why did it not kill him? There's a whole bunch of questions to be asked here. The big question, however, is the obvious one. How did a toddler make it 12 miles in just a day and survive? Now, another issue of this case is that it was cold. It was winter. There was snow on the ground, and it's in Oregon. How did this kid survive with clothes that were not for that? Also, when he was found, his hat and his coat were stacked neatly next to his body, and he was just chilling there on the ground. Many years later, more recently, Les Stroud of Survivor Man would try and make the exact same trek in the exact same period of time, and this adult man, a professional wilderness survival expert, could not hike that 12 miles that Keith had covered. To this day, it's completely unexplained how he did it. Finally, moving out of the cases of child shows up somewhere child could not have reasonably gotten, we're going to move into adult shows up place adult could not have reasonably gotten. Because the case of Danny Filipidis is baffling. It's a case where amnesia plays a very big role, and where there really isn't an explanation for how all of the things that happened without somebody getting suspicious. You see, Danny was a firefighter from Canada who was skiing with some buddies at Whiteface Mountain in New York. Everybody went in to get some food late in the afternoon. Danny decided he wanted to stay out and get a few more runs in, which, having been snowboarding myself, I don't understand how anyone makes it down the mountain more than once. I still have a knee injury months later. You can't see it, but Aiden is snickering behind the camera because he was there when it happened, and he was supposed to be teaching me to snowboard, but we had to share a helmet because they ran out of rentals, and instead our friend Wade took me down the mountain. Wade is a skier. Wade does not know how to teach people to snowboard. Wade just knows how to watch people fall off a snowboard all the way down a mountain over the course of half an hour. Honestly, I wish I just laid down and died. It would have been easier that way. The last fall from that, sorry to get off track, but the last fall from that is the one that really broke my spirit because I fell. Wade, behind me, rather than skiing around me or anything, just jumped over me, to which people on the ski lift above us started clapping, and a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, skied up next to me and said, "Mister, are you okay?" Which made me feel old and also get dissed by a 6-year-old girl. So I don't think I will be partaking in snow sports anymore. But Danny was participating in snow sports, and much like me, it went poorly for him. Because when everybody went back to Danny's room to see if maybe he'd just gone back to take a nap, he wasn't there, and his car was still there, and his clothes were still there. Everything Danny could need, including his cell phone and his wallet, were still there. So, what exactly happened? Well, they looked for Danny, they launched a search, covered the mountain, really tried hard, could not find the guy. Keep in mind, this man is a firefighter, he's in good shape, so he's probably going to be okay, he's in his ski clothes, he's good, nobody's super worried, until they don't find him at all. And eventually, he was found, but by himself. Because what happened was, he placed a call to his wife in Canada from Sacramento, California. You see, Danny, in the course of 6 days since going missing on February 7th, 2018, went from Whiteface in upstate New York to Sacramento, California. He could not produce any bus, plane, or train tickets. He was still wearing his ski gear, including his goggles that were on his head, which, by the way, in case this couldn't get more confusing for you, Danny had gotten a haircut, which means that this man walked into a barbershop somewhere between New York and California, took off his ski goggles, got a haircut, put his ski goggles back on, and continued on his way. He also somehow managed to buy a new iPhone to call his wife with. So maybe he still had a credit card? I don't totally understand how this went down. He could not explain what happened. He could not even really explain when he went missing. He just showed up in Sacramento. Now, if there were any number of other variables in this case, like if there had been another woman, or if he had been found in Sacramento but hadn't exposed to the world that he was in Sacramento, you might be able to say that, oh, maybe he was just running away from his life. But no, he made a deliberate attempt to get back to his life 6 days after going missing. The case to this day remains unsolved in terms of how he actually got to California, but what really matters to everyone that cares about Danny is that he's home safe now. So, the good thing is, today we were able to bring you 3 stories of missing 411 cases where they have happy endings. Person was found, person lived a long and healthy and joyous life. But if you enjoy hearing us talk about these cases as well as the ones that don't go so well for the people involved, you can make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, follow us everywhere you can, share our videos with your friends, and if you really, really, really love us, check out our Patreon. We post some exclusive content on there. It's $1 a month to get access to everything, and it really helps us keep everything going, helps us grow, helps us, just be content creators because, there's not a lot of money in this business. Anyway, I'm Aiden Mattis. Behind the camera is Aiden Thornberry, and thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge.